Coming up, SpaceX launches.
Sierra Nevada protests.
And a lot of stuff happening on Mars. Plus, this is our community chat, asking people why they're space geeks. Stay tuned. Tomorrow begins right now.
Oh, it's beautiful, Mike. Got the flag up now. You can see the stars and
Private space station. Dragon.
Welcome to tomorrow, episode 7.30 for Saturday, September 27th, 2014. My name is Benjamin Higginbotham. With me, as always, my beautiful, lovely, wonderful, and talented wife, Carrie Ann Higginbotham, will be your hosts for this episode. Now, before we get started, huge shout out to the people who are making this specific episode happen. These are our patrons of tomorrow. These are their premier members. They've contributed at least $10 to this specific episode. You can find out more information on the rewards and how you can help this show over at patreon.com/TMRO. We are a crowdfunded show. Every single dollar helps. All right, let's go ahead and get started. We're bringing Space Mike back on. Let's try that again. Space Mike back on, our SpaceX correspondent, to talk to us about what happened last week. Space Mike.
Hello. So SpaceX has launched successfully on September 21st at 5:52 Universal Time, and it was a beautiful launch.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. We have liftoff of the Falcon 9.
Night launches, as always, are beautiful, and although the launch was delayed for one day, they successfully launched, and just 2 days later, on Tuesday, September 23rd, they were able to rendezvous with and successfully be grappled by the space station at around 10:52 Universal Time, and then they berthed at 13:52 Universal Time, and this is a really awesome mission because of the payload that is on board. There are several important experiments that SpaceX is bringing to the ISS. Some of those include life sciences experiments, including a bone densitometer that is going to be measuring several mice for their bone loss and muscle atrophy. And these mice, or moustronauts, are being launched, as well as a platform to be able to contain them and study them in a suitable habitat. And with this studies, they're hopefully going to be able to develop new treatments for humans to be able to counteract a lot of the bone loss that we get in microgravity. And as well, on this mission, they had several CubeSats and small sats, as well as a new CubeSat launcher called Cyclops. And also, there is a really awesome 3D printer. This is the first 3D printer sent to the ISS. And there are so many capabilities of what this 3D printer could do, as long as the tests are successful, of course. And I'm just so happy that SpaceX has been able to continue to do these missions and been able to do, to have more launches in a smaller time frame. And with this is the fourth mission out of the 12 that they have been contracted for. And other payloads that were on this include some lithium-ion batteries that are replacements for the at least American EVA spacesuits. And part of that is due to the failure that happened last year on Luca Parmitano's suit, where he had a lot of leaking water inside of the helmet. And just they can't use any U.S. spacesuits until that problem is fixed. And it was determined that the problem started because of a battery shortage. So this is very cool that they're sending up these replacements, and hopefully everything will go well so that we don't have to just use the Russian Orlan spacesuits as well. So very happy about this mission. Back to you, Ben.
Awesome. Thank you, Space Mike. We're going to keep him on the line, and we're going to bring him back at the community chat of this particular show, tell you a little bit about who he is, why we've brought him on the show, and why he got interested in space. And he mentioned that the Dragon went to the International Space Station. Well, we also had Soyuz going up to the space station. Here's the launch coverage.
12 seconds. The launch command has been issued. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. liftoff. Butch Wilmore, Alexander Semikutyaev, and Elena Serova now making their way to the International Space Station.
And thank goodness she said those names for me, because we all know I would butcher every last one of them. That launched, that launched September 25th at 2025 Universal Time from the Baikonur Cosmodrome. It was a fast-track rendezvous with the International Space Station, although the Soyuz capsule up top looked a little bit like a wounded bird. We actually lost one of the solar panels. It did not deploy as expected, so it kind of only had one panel out of the side. There's a shot of that. I know, right? But it still made it to the International Space Station. It did dock with the space station on time at 02:11 Universal Time on Friday. And a little bit after docking, I think it's a little more after a half hour, that left solar array that's not deployed did finally deploy. That's good, because when the vehicle returns to Earth next March, they're going to want the photovoltaics to actually be supplying power to the craft until it jettisons that section. So controllers are much happier now that the solar panel deployed. There's probably something to do with it's a fairly violent maneuver docking with the space station that probably jiggled something free and allowed the photovoltaics to fold out and do what they needed to do. So there you go, a busy time up at the International Space Station. I think there's something like 5 visiting crafts or something insane like that up at station. So they got that thing running at full bore right now.
So awesome.
Speaking of someone who was not going to the International Space Station.
Oh, how
Ouch.
mean.
Well, not right now at least.
So Sierra Nevada has put in a protest of the Commercial Crew Award. We covered the CCT Cap Award this last couple of weeks, which eventually went to Boeing and to SpaceX. Sierra Nevada, of course, was up for possibly getting some money out of that award. And
the award stands for the Commercial Crew Transportation Capabilities, so CCT Cap.
yes, exactly. But they didn't. So September 26th, they filed a protest with the U.S. Government Accountability Office, or GAO. In a statement, they said, quote, that... I apologize. I have these totally out of order. Their basic issue is that the money that would have gone to Sierra Nevada would have been substantially less than the money that possibly would have gone to some of the people it did go to inside of the award, as much as $900 million less. So they're upset because they said that this is going to be costing the public way more than it should for basically the exact same thing, or what they say near equivalent technical and past performance scores. So that's kind of a big deal. Because they didn't win the award, they've actually had to lay off 100 people who were directly working on the Dream Chaser program, which is the animation that you're seeing here.
No, this is real footage. This
is real footage? Oh, God, sorry. I looked up and it did look
We always
exactly
show the
like the
animation, and
animation.
I wanted people to realize that they have real hardware. So what you're watching that's an actual flight test article,
right? And
at least a test article.
And part of the hardware that they've made was actually under the
CCI Cap.
Yeah, the CCI Cap, which is the Commercial Crew Integrated Capability Award, which they are still going to continue to do because they still have a couple more milestones to hit. But then as soon as that's done, should this protest not do anything, they're going to actually continue to shop around the Dream Chaser vehicle, thank you, to commercial and international people, which is... I mean, good for them. I think that's really great.
Well, it seems like they're pretty far along, right?
They are.
We saw the test engine firing earlier. They've got a hardware section. They've got the lifting body. Mm-hmm. I don't know how far complete they are, but
the last two milestones
pretty far.
Are I don't want to say they're minimal because none of these milestones are really minimal. But they're relatively simple when you've gotten this far. If that makes any sense. I mean, you've got like another.
Landing test?
Yes, thank you. They've got
drop test.
Yeah, they've got like a drop test, landing test, and another one that I will think of in 5 more minutes.
Thank you, random control room.
Yay! Sorry, I'm so sorry, you guys. But no, so they are pretty far along in the commercial CCI Cap, the Commercial Crew Integrated Capability Award. But they were rightfully so, a little upset that they didn't win, and they feel like they could have saved everyone a lot of money. And So they put a protest in.
So
There
with
you
or
go.
without the lawsuit, or I guess not a lawsuit, it's a protest,
It
right?
is a protest,
So
technically.
with or without that, I actually am a fan of the Dream Chaser vehicle.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm hopeful that they are far enough along that they are able to shop it around, as you said,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe ESA wants to use it, JAXA wants to use it, some other agency can find a use for this, for sending astronauts to space station, or even to maybe to a Bigelow module. I'm not sure
Right,
how,
right.
I don't know how high up it can go and what it would be able to do, or what its capabilities there are, but I actually do see a use for this module, and I'm hoping that they don't give up on it. I do believe I read a quote somewhere that's saying they are not going to give up on it. This will probably slow its development down, but they're going to continue moving
Well, yeah,
forward.
I mean, they just had a layoff. With the 100 people laid off, I believe that it was the equivalent of about 9%. Like, it was a pretty decent percentage of people that they could, because they had a huge hiring
Sure.
go on because they thought they were going to win this award, and then they had to suddenly
Let them all go.
Yeah,
That
which is
sucks,
really
man.
sad.
That sucks.
really sad.
So, speaking of them, actually, there's a new CRS contract. That's the commercial resupply contract. That's for cargo to the International Space Station. So what we were just previously talking about, that's crew to the International Space Station. Well, we've got all these new capsules now, right? We've got Dragon V2. That won the Commercial Crew Transportation Capabilities Award. We've got the CRS-100 from Boeing. That won the CCT Cap Award. Then we have Sierra Nevada. They were competing for the award. And
You mean the CST 100?
the CST, what did I say?
You said CRS.
I'm sorry, CS
All of these acronyms.
the CST 100 spacecraft.
Yeah.
Then we've got Orbital Sciences has their Cygnus spacecraft.
Yeah.
SpaceX and Orbital Sciences fly today, and NASA has released a request for proposals for a second round of contracts to transport cargo to and fro the International Space Station. This happened last September 25th. And the bidding is going to happen soon, and Sierra Nevada and Boeing are both expected to join in the bidding. Boeing wants to put their CST 100 capsule up, and Sierra Nevada wants to kind of retrofit Dream Chaser to be used for
So then we would
cargo.
have four. We would have Orbital and SpaceX that are currently doing it right now.
Yes,
Then we would have
yep.
Boeing that would be joining all of that to be doing
Well,
cargo.
they'll be bidding. They're all bidding. All the
you're
four
right.
bidding. Yep.
And then Sierra Nevada to be bidding as well.
You got it.
That'll be a very interesting award.
Yeah, I think so too. It's going to cover cargo transportation through 2020 with and then an extension up to 2024. There are between 1 and 5 missions per year for 2018 through 2024 with a minimum of 6 total missions. So there you go. That was what's NASA has a knack of making acronyms confusing. So we just launched SpaceX CRS-4,
Right.
which is really CRS-1-4 because
Yes.
it's the first contract but 4th mission under their first contract.
Right.
This is CRS-2. So this is the CRS-2 contracts, if that makes any sense.
Yay.
I know, there you go. All right, lots of stuff happening at Mars.
Yeah, so India made crazy history. India now has their first Martian probe that entered into Martian orbit correctly. They are now one of only 4 countries to do that. US, Russia, ESA, I guess, essentially, and then now ISRO, or the Indian Space Agency. And they also made history because it's their very first try, and they got it. It's incredible.
That's a big deal, right? Mars is hard.
huge.
Mars is hard, and they did it on their first shot, and they did
Yeah.
it for not a lot.
Yay! The Mars Orbiter mission, also known as MOM, launched in November of 2013, and then on Wednesday, September 24th at 0230 GMT, is that the way we're doing those numbers now? They entered into orbit and got some signal back and all those other fun things. Curiosity even said hi via Twitter, and Mom said hello back.
This is Mom saying hello back. So this is one of the photos from around orbit. I like the, I'm getting better at this, no pressure. Haha, space pun. Space pun. Get it? Space pun. And then there's actually a second photo as well. This is, yeah, look at
So
that.
gorgeous. Look at that.
Live from India's space program back to Earth from Mars.
It's so awesome. The probe is carrying color imaging cameras to return medium resolution pictures of the Martian surface, a thermal infrared spectrometer to measure the chemical composition of rocks and soils, and instruments to assess the Mars atmosphere, including a methane detector. They want to really study the history of the Martian climate and the mineral makeup of its surface.
And speaking of Mars, the Mars atmosphere and volatile evolution. Here you go, boom, artist rendition.
Nice.
And I'm pretty sure Earth is not to scale in that photo. I hope not, because if so, we got a problem. That is known as MAVEN. It launched November 18th, 2013 on an Atlas V launch by United Launch Alliance, and it arrived at Mars September 21st, 2014, and its burn completed at 0223 coordinated time. And this vehicle, MAVEN, is going to teach us more about how water and air were stripped from the red planet's ancient atmosphere, potentially killing off any life that may have been there. So it's kind of looking to see how the Mars atmosphere ended up in a dead planet of sorts. All right, do we want to do this last story, or do we?
If you want, we don't have to.
All right, let's just whip over it really fast.
Sure.
All right, boom, video that's kind of neat.
We're coming up on the 10-year anniversary of the Ansari X Prize, and as such, there are tickets available to the 10-year anniversary celebration, as it were. You can only get the tickets through a completely different thing the X Prize Foundation is doing, called the Global Learning X Prize. There's an Indiegogo campaign. They're trying to raise $500,000 by November 6th. At the $2,500 level, you can get 2 tickets to this invite-only 10-year anniversary Ansari X Prize celebration that will be at Mojave, California, October 4th. Of course, Peter Diamandis, Richard Branson, Anusha Ansari are all expected to attend. Those of you who don't know, the $10 million prize was for the first non-government organization to launch a reusable manned spacecraft into space twice within 2 weeks. There you go.
There you go. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, this is our community chat. So we've got members of the community coming in talking about why they became space geeks. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Look into her face, determination in her eyes. She won't give up or quit or fall for little fashion lies. Filled on some expectation. This girl's a fascination. Nothing in her way will keep her from her destination. 'Cause she's fire walking. She's fire walking. When it's hot, she keeps on moving. The heat keeps on improving. Yeah, she's fire walking. She's fire walking to be free.
Welcome back to Tomorrow. Before we get started with our community chat, I did want to do a couple of things. First, I'm going to throw a curveball at Dutta. I wanted to showcase the new logo that he has created, which is in Media Player 1, Dutta. And this is an amazing logo. This is the finalized TMRO logo that we're going to be using for everything. This is important because we've been nitpicking over the details for quite a long time. So that's it. As Chris Radcliffe said on our Reddit channel, it looks like a monorail departing the station at high speed, which is kind of what we're going for. I'm going to be talking in detail at our next community chat, which is I think it's like October 14th, I believe it is.
I think so, yeah.
It's basically 2 weeks from now. We're going to be doing a live community chat for all of our patrons of Tomorrow at the $1 or above level. We're going to be talking about how we got to this logo, what the meaning and symbolism behind the T, the M, R, and O are, all that other fun jazz. So you get a little bit of insight into all of that. It's going to be really freaking awesome. There's going to be more information on Patreon as to when that chat is going on. It will be in place of this show. Carrie Ann will actually be out of town, so we'll be doing the community chat. The patron chat about 2 weeks from now, and you'll have more information on Patreon. Speaking of Patreons, the patrons are the people who are making this episode happen. These are the producers of Tomorrow. These are people who contributed at least $5 or more to this specific episode. You can find out more information about this over at patreon.com/TMRO. All right, let's go ahead and get started with our community chat this week. We are joined by, we've got Carrie Ann right here, which is awkward, like having me there. Yeah, let's go to that camera. So Carrie Ann's right here. She'll tell her space story. Then we're also joined by Space Mike from Epic Future Space. He's the one who's been doing our awesome SpaceX updates. We're also joined by BZ Wing Zero, who's been with Space Vidcast /Tomorrow since nearly the beginning, I think.
Yeah.
And it's been fun to watch him and work around, go around stuff. And then, of course, our director, Dutta, is with us, as he is, hi Dutta, every single week. All right, let's go ahead and start with you, Space Mike. Tell us a little bit about how you got involved in space. Why are you passionate enough to create the Epic Future Space YouTube channel?
Well, I've always been interested in space since I was a kid.
You're laughing because I said the answer I don't want to hear in the show is I've been interested in space as a kid. That's like the one answer I don't want.
Well, that is relevant though. I mean, as a kid, I did love space, but I wasn't interested in real space flight. I was interested in stuff like Star Trek and movies and Star Wars and things like that. And as a kid, you know, I'd look at the space shuttle and even the ISS when it first got going, and you know, it just it didn't excite me. It wasn't interesting to me. And as I grew up, you know, lost interest in space and got interested in other things. And then it was about, let's see, probably 2007, where, you know, just out of the blue one day, I was just like, you know, what's going on with space? What is our progress? Are we even heading towards our Star Trek future or not? And so I looked up and found lots of really great websites, space.com, NASA Space Watch, all sorts of stuff like that, and started finding really, really good information. And as an adult, being able to understand a lot of that information and realizing that the space shuttle is an incredible machine and the ISS is an amazing machine. I mean, it just really got me going, really got me fired up. And the more and more that I learned and the more stuff that I found out about, the more passionate I got. And I realized that, oh my gosh, like this is our real future. This is something that is incredible. And I just been, ever since then, I have my daily ritual of looking up what's going on in space and all the different avenues of all the different government agencies and private companies and stuff like that. And then I discovered Space Vidcast, and I also discovered Miles O'Brien's show that he had on YouTube as well. And that was awesome. That was just really cool. I was able to, get involved with the community, and what really got me inspired to start my own YouTube channel with Epic Future Space is because Miles O'Brien quit his YouTube channel and they started doing something else. It wasn't, I don't remember exactly what it was, but after he quit, I was like, oh my gosh, like, that's kind of a void. Like, not that I thought that I could fill that void, but it just inspired me to talk about it. And I wanted to be one of those YouTubers that talked about whatever they want. And I think I'd had like 2 episodes that had like 4 views a piece. And then I talked about space and it suddenly blew up. And I was just like, all right, I think I'm on the right track here. And then after a couple videos, I made a video called or about the Nautilus X. Ooh, I don't know if you guys heard that lightning, but it's getting stormy where I'm at. Anyway,
so if we lose you, we'll know why.
Exactly.
He's been swallowed up by a Sharknado. That's why.
Copy that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Good.
Sharknado. By the way, have we been on? Oh, never mind. We're good. Let's see. So I made a video about the Nautilus X, and you guys actually discovered that and shared a clip of that video on your show and told everyone to go check out my YouTube channel. And it, like, overnight, I think I went from like 20 subscribers to like 200 subscribers. And I was just like, oh my gosh, freaking out. And that has led me to so many awesome things. I've been able to continue to do videos for a long time. Over the past year, I've hardly done any at all because real life has gotten in the way. But along the way of doing Epic Future Space, I started working for a website called moonandback.com. And that was an incredible opportunity for me because through that, I was able to go to several space conferences around the country and meet a lot of the people that I was talking about, scientists, engineers, astronauts, some of my heroes. And it was so mind-blowing, and at the same time, I was able to sit down with these people one-on-one and interview them for the videos that we did for moonandback.com. And what an experience that was. I mean, not only was I, one of those people who just talked about, basic questions. What did it feel like to be in space? Or tell me a little bit about the rocket you're working on. I would try to get them going and get them fired up and talk about their passions and why they were doing that. And just such a really, really awesome opportunity for me to go out and meet a lot of these people. And I even got to meet you guys once at the, which one was that? That was the New Space Conference in California last year. And that was so much fun when we did the Space Vidcast takeover on my show.
Oh, we just took your laptop and we were like, we're done with you now, and we walked through. Actually, you can find that on YouTube. It was absolutely a lot of fun.
It really was. It really was. And I'm just so excited and fired up about just about anything that has to do with space. And my hope and my dream is to actually work in the space industry building stuff, whether it be satellites. I'd rather build rockets. I'm more about the propulsion instead of the electronics. So that's my dream. And no matter what, I just want pretty much every space venture to be successful.
And you are our new SpaceX correspondent, so we'll be bringing you on probably just about every week, because SpaceX is in the news quite often. But anytime we've got SpaceX news, because we're not going to be talking about that, we'll bring you on to talk about that. And thank you very much for kind of last minute making that happen for these last 2 episodes. It was great. It was quite awesome.
You're welcome. Happy to be here.
Let's move over to BZ Wing Zero. BZ has been with SpaceVidcast / Tomorrow since. BZ, were you here from the very beginning? If not, it was a long time.
Really early on.
It's been a long time, right?
Lunar Lander Challenge is when I found you guys.
Oh, that was like year number 1 or 2. So yeah, very early on. Absolutely. So what's your, back when you first started with us, you were a rocket scientist in training, but that was like 6 years ago. What got you passionate in space, and where are you at now?
Growing up in Florida, you might be able to see the flag up here. To watch a launch, all you have to do is walk outside and look in the correct direction. And cameras don't capture how bright these launches are. And growing up here, you just go out and watch them. But my first real launch, the one that really made me a space geek, was probably 6 years old, 5, 6 years old. Get up at 3 in the morning. And when you're 6 years old, that's really early in the morning. And then we go on like this 1.5-hour drive, and between Orlando and the Cape, there is nothing. If you're lucky, you can see a swamp. Mm-hmm. I mean, there is nothing along the route. So we get there. It's probably 4:30 in the morning by the time we get there. 5 o'clock. Sun's just barely thinking about considering coming up. And I get to taste coffee for the first time, and it was amazing. And then
that's awesome. Wait, it's not the lunch, it's the coffee. It's the coffee that gets you. All right. So we love the coffee. All right,
we all
keep
understand.
Going. Yep, keep going.
And then I want to say it was about the launch was scheduled for about 7 a.m. and then it was delayed about 3 hours. But then Discovery finally lifted off, and we were watching from the causeway, so that's 5-6 miles, and it was amazing. And that is the reason why Discovery is my favorite shuttle, because coffee.
By the way, you are wrong. Atlantis is your favorite shuttle from here on out. Just so you know, that is SpaceVidcast tradition and lore.
Oh goodness.
So what are you doing now? So you saw this amazing epic shuttle launch as a young kid. Coffee, which. That's awesome. That's awesome. And then you were passionate about this, and I know you were in school for engineering. Where are you at right now?
Because of some personal stuff, I haven't been able to head out to the middle of the Mojave Desert or join with these other companies, but I still stay involved with you guys at Tomorrow, formerly SpaceVidcast, as well as I keep in touch with all of my friends at SpaceX and Virgin and NASA and X-Corps. I don't think I know anybody at Sierra Space Dev, but I keep in touch. I follow everything. Recently, I've been playing a lot of Kerbal Space Program because that's a great way to get other people into space, as it's a gamified way of learning orbital mechanics.
And you mentioned Mojave, and for those who don't know, describe why you would want to go to Mojave. As an aspiring space geek, what's the big deal about Mojave?
Mojave is in the middle of nowhere, which makes it a great place for X-Corps and Virgin and Maston and all of those companies to test their rockets safely. So there's a spaceport there, and there's lots of companies building and flying hardware out in the middle of the desert.
Awesome. Dutta, let's move on to you, actually. How did you become a space geek that I absorb your time every Saturday for nothing. You just come in and do this show. So you must clearly love space at least a little bit to be willing to do this week after week.
Well, when I was a little kid, my dad and my brother were into watching space shuttle launches. My brother would wake me up early and, get up at 6 in the morning or something to watch a launch. One morning, my dad woke us up and told us that we were going to go to Edwards Air Force Base to watch a shuttle land. I had never seen a space shuttle. We live in California. They're not here, really. They're up at Edwards Air Force Base. And so I remember very vividly that we drove to LA and my dad rented a 3-foot lens for his Nikon F, and we drove up to Edwards Air Force Base, to the public viewing site that they had there, and we were standing around watching, waiting. My dad and my brother were able to go on top of the motorhome or camper and watch from up there, but I was too young. So waiting for the shuttle, and all of a sudden I hear boom, boom. The sonic booms of the shuttle coming in. Everybody's clapping and waving, and I'm trying to look around, trying to find it. My dad's occupied, my brother's occupied. I'm basically just standing there by myself, and being 5 or 6 years old, I look around and all I see is cars. I didn't see anything. So from then on out.
All right, kill the guest feed for me. There we go.
So from then on out, I kind of had this mission in life to be able to see a space shuttle, specifically a space shuttle launch. I wanted to design it. I'm the tinkerer, the engineer at heart. I'm actually in school for mechanical engineering. Life makes it take a lot longer than I'd like it to, but I'm getting there. And I wanted to build and design stuff for space.
And will you? Is that where you're going to be?
Probably someday. I'm getting closer. There are some of the things that I work on at work are used by NASA Ames and SpaceX, and I think we've got Orbital. Blue Origin is one of our customers, so I'm getting there. I'm working my way in.
You're also our chief engineer here on the show. You actually we got these clamps for our cameras that allow us to hang screens so that we can actually make eye contact with the camera and still see what's going on. And the clamps were not just a little too large for the pole, they weren't even in the same, they were like inches too big.
Yeah.
And so you had 3D printed some inserts to go inside of these clamps, and you brought them over today and they fit absolutely perfectly. It's quite amazing. Let's go to you, actually, because I kind of forced space onto you. What's your story? Why are you still here after 6 years? Why are we not talking about Lost yet? And what made you a space geek?
So, you and I previously worked together at a completely different company, and we were doing a technology podcast, a technology vidcast podcast sort of thing. Ustream was just coming online.
This is before the iPhone, mind you.
This is, This is, Ustream was just barely coming online, and the CEO of our company wanted to do a technology podcast, and you were my ride home, so I didn't have a whole lot of a choice.
So honestly. You love space because I was your ride home.
No, just listen. This is a good story. So we were doing this technology podcast for an hour a day, 5 days a week. Which was insane. We were pretty good. Yeah, you knew the technology stuff. I had absolutely no flipping clue, and we would just discuss it, and you would say, this is why this is really cool, and I would say I don't really understand that, but okay, cool. And we were getting a lot of momentum, but then the CEO decided that he wasn't getting out of the podcast what he thought he should be, because much like you, he also was a technophile, so he already kind of understood everything that we were presenting anyhow. So we sort of got shut down, but because you were really, really good at turning in receipts...
Sarcasm.
We already owned all of this equipment.
All of this sound foam, actually, I owned because they never paid for it because I never turned in the receipts.
This is from that.
10-year-old sound foam.
So a couple months went by, we had shut down. We were kind of excited to get our lives back to a certain extent. And then we realized, you realized that you just can't sit still.
I can't.
Just can't sit still, can't do it. And you wanted to do another podcast, and you said, all right, well, I'd like to do another podcast with you. And I said, all right, yeah, that was fun. I like spending time with you. It's kind of why I married you. And so what do you want to do? And you said, I want to do oceans or space. And I said...
Exploration.
Those are the two dumbest things I've ever heard in my entire life. No. And you said, no, really. Like, this, that, and the other. Exploration. That's exactly how you try to pitch it to me. And I said, look, oceans... I don't care about. And space, honestly, NASA, come on. Anything that interesting that could possibly ever be said about space has already been said. So, and I, of course, was going on the mindset that we were going to be doing this for an hour at a time, 5 days a week. I was like, within 2 months, we're going to run out of topics. We're literally going to have nothing else to say. And so that, you tricky little, you
What?
heard that.
What?
And you said, all right, how about this? I will make you a promise. As soon as we have nothing else to discuss about space, we will stop this podcast. And I said, great, because 2 months, I can dedicate 2 months of my life to this crap. No problem. And we shook on it. And in Minnesota, that is a legal binding contract, which is really unfortunate for me because I really wasn't aware of that at the time. And I said, and honestly, when we're done with that, can we just do something interesting for once, something that I care about, something that I would want to talk about for like an hour at a time, 5 days a week? And you said, sure, anything. I go, good, because Lost is amazing.
The TV show.
Yeah. And so here we are, 6-7 years later, and there's still interesting stuff to talk about space. And
Did you become a space geek because of the show?
I mean,
Through osmosis?
you know, I guess so. No, I have. We through this show, we've had some amazing opportunities, really amazing opportunities. Where BZ Wing Zero, he mentioned the Northrop Grumman Lunar Lander Challenge, which was in 2008. We got to fly to New Mexico. We got to see these prototype landers, you know, up and down and over and
Armadillo Aerospace, Maston Space Systems. There was
there were a couple others.
The Dad and Son team, which was really inspiring. I don't remember their name.
Well, Unreasonable Rocket was there.
Yep.
There was another group out of Chicago. There was something that was on fire. We were up early. We were up late. Like, it was crazy. It was cold. It was hot. It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. The following year, we got to go to ISDC in Orlando, 2009, where we met a bunch of other space geeks. And it just sort of grew into this thing. Eventually, we were able to go down to the space shuttle launches. We were able to see space shuttle launches from the media site, which is only 3 miles away or something along those lines. And exactly as BZ Wing Sarah was saying, well, even Mike was saying and Dutta was saying, you know, when you see one of those things in person, you can't deny that. It's something changes in you, and you have to have more of it. And it's so interesting, and it's so important, and it's so monumental that it just grabs a hold of you. And I, even if we were, for whatever reason, to run out of things to talk about tomorrow and not be able to do this show anymore, because, while I love the history of it, just only dwelling on the history of it is just not a thing in my mind. So if we had to shut off the cameras tomorrow, I would still consider myself a space geek, at least a little bit. Because
we're not planning on shutting off the cameras. You harped on one key point that I think is really important in that, especially in our industry, and that is when you see it and you get to be a part of it yourself, it changes you. And I would argue it changes you for the better. You get a different perspective on the world. And this is why I'm really excited for X-Core and Virgin Galactic. Being able to go up and have what's known as the overview effect. Being able to go up and see the planet from space, I believe, there's a little bit of studies, but I'm hopeful will change people for the better. They won't see boundaries, and humanity will become, I realize it's a little more of a utopian way of looking at things, but I'm hopeful for humanity. I think we can do better than what we're doing today. I think that's awesome. I'll do my story really quick, just so you guys
The correct answer is he's always been a space geek since he was a little kid.
There you go. All right, we're going to go to break. When we no one else is allowed to take it because that's my story. No, actually, as Dad Dog said, because I was yelling at everyone before the show, before we went into the community chat, I told him I don't want to hear the one answer of I was always a space geek, because we all were, in a way, right? When you're a kid, everything is cool to you. It's all awesome to you, and we're all space geeks, and we're all firefighter geeks, and we're all whatever geeks.
Right.
We're geeks about everything. We love all that stuff. I even remember I had, they're probably still there, these little glow-in-the-dark stars that I pressed into the popcorn foam in the ceiling, and so hard that you can't get them out. So I'm pretty sure in my childhood bedroom are still these little stars pressed everywhere. But then you go through life, and some of those things that you found interesting aren't interesting anymore, and I fell out of favor with it, and I was no longer a space geek. I was definitely a video geek in high school. And then we were doing that show you were talking about, the technology podcast, and one day I ran across someone had said, oh, well, they're canceling the space shuttle, and I was furious. how can they cancel? I grew up with the space shuttle. This is America's space program. You cannot cancel this space shuttle. That is not allowed. You're a bunch of idiots. And then I got to thinking, actually, I know nothing about the space shuttle anymore.
Yeah, at that point, we realized, when was the last time we even watched a space shuttle
I
launch?
hadn't
When's the last time
watched...
Wait. When's the last time we even heard that there
yeah.
was a space shuttle launch?
Hadn't been paying attention at all, and I realized how little I knew, and I decided to get myself immersed again. Now, this is before the show was canceled, and so I started getting, delving into the space shuttle and kind of understanding, okay, actually, would you want to drive a 30 or 40-year-old car? Maybe not. We have to refurbish this thing every time.
The people who made the parts aren't even in business anymore.
Exactly,
in
right?
Some cases.
The manufacturing techniques are scary old.
Right.
It's really expensive. There are better ways to do this. It will free up funds. I was like, oh, this actually all kind of makes sense.
Right.
And I was hooked. Like that spark in me relit. And that's how Space Vidcast, which is now tomorrow, was born. I wanted to help relight that spark in everyone and get them excited about space as well. So for me, it was the space shuttle. And when we went down to STS, I forgot the first one. We'll call it 119. I think was the first one we saw from the media site. It may not have been that one. It was something like that. When we went down and watched that, it was something else. Being able to see the space shuttle live in person, being able to see these vehicles in person, it truly does absolutely change you. What's your space moment? What's the thing that gets you excited about space? What's the thing that you're passionate about when it comes to space? I'd love to hear your comments. Leave them in YouTube, leave them on Patreon, leave them wherever. We're curious to hear your stories as well. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, comments from our last show. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Tomorrow. Now, before we get into all the people who helped make this show go, I did want to clarify. Last time I didn't have my computer in front of me. The Patreon community chat will be October 11th at 2 o'clock p.m. Pacific time. That's 2100 Coordinated Universal Time, 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. All right. Speaking of the Patreon stuff, these are the people, the Patreon Plus subscribers who help make this part of this episode go. These are the people who have contributed at least $3 or more. Again, that list keeps getting longer and longer and longer. And there are also people who have contributed $1 and more. These are people who are helping to make the show go week after week. $1, it's as little as like a cup of coffee at Starbucks. It helps us a great deal. Head on over to patreon.com/TMRO for more information and the rewards. And if you guys don't mind, it turns out that on Patreon, they use the same kind of algorithms that Reddit uses for like lifting you up in the rankings for science and education. If you don't mind, just head on over. On that last slate, if you click on the Patreon logo, it brings you over to Patreon. On the creation page, just like it. Just click like, and that will help a great deal. So there you go. Let's go ahead and get started with some comments from our last week's show. First up is Martian in a Human's Body.
From Reddit says, I would choose SpaceX as a sole provider for the following reasons. Most capable craft, best long-term potentials, propulsive landing, potentially more easily reusable rocket platform, most cost-effective service provider in the near long-term for NASA, especially with F9R reusable technology.
Yeah, I mean that seems fairly reasonable. Mike, are you still with us?
I am. I just got back. Are you guys?
Yeah. If you heard that comment, what do you think? Because we defer SpaceX comments over to you. So the reason SpaceX is one of the better providers, most capable craft, best long-term potentials, reusable rocket platform, and most cost-effective service provider. Does that seem like a fair analysis of them?
Yes, I would say so. And I think that part of the reason for that is because as a company, and especially their founder, Elon Musk, is passionate about space. I mean, you look at Boeing and Lockheed, yes, they're experienced, but to be honest, I think they're really all about the money. So with SpaceX, they are trying to have the most cost-effective vehicle possible, and that's, of course, why they're doing the whole reusable program. They are trying to provide the best services possible, and that's why, you know, I was confused at first with the Dragon V2, but I understand it a little bit more, you know, to have the Dragon cargo ship by itself and then also to have the human capability. So I really think that that is a true statement, that they are doing everything in their power and funding capability to be the best provider that they can be.
Awesome. All right, let's move on to the next comment. This comes from Destructor1701.
Also from Reddit, I think Mike is a great addition to the show, and you should totally ruin his Saturdays from now on, or until the heat death of the universe.
First off, that was an amazing technical mistake that actually kind of worked in the
so
show,
well.
Dennis. So we're gonna give that one to you. But yeah, Mike, you're ours now, just so you know. It helps a great deal.
No.
It helps a great deal. All right, moving on.
Rick Yan from YouTube said, you know, I agree with future Space Mike, but if SpaceX is going to get picked, it would probably hasten the development of the Dragon spacecraft and the other technologies that might help when they decide to go to Mars. So we might say hello to Mars sooner. Also, I dance to that music too. Funny, I thought I was the only one. I even lip sync to it most of the time.
You know, I should post, and I do too, and so does Mike. I should post where you can buy the song. It is royalty-free music, so it's not like $1 purchase.
Right.
It's like $10, but it is actually a halfway decent song. It works really well with rocket launches. Again, I'll defer back to you, Mike. Hastening, if we go with SpaceX, will it make things go faster?
I think so. And I say that because of the huge ramp up in production that they've been doing. And, you know, we're not going to see it faster immediately, but I think in the next 3 to 4 years, we're going to see them doing the sort of, being able to achieve the sort of launch manifest that they have expected of themselves this whole time. A lot of people have looked at it thinking that it might be a little unrealistic, and yes, maybe now it is, but I think that especially once the new spaceport is up and running, that it's going to be awesome, and they will help us get to space quicker.
Although they just turned the pad in how many days? 13, was it? 14? Something like that?
Something like that. It was
Yeah.
a crazy number.
All right, moving on.
Eric Unger says, from YouTube, this was officially the, quote, Benjamin Physics Nonsense, end quote, episode. Sorry to pop your dream of instant communication with quantum entanglement. You need to send a standard light speed photon for reference, else you can't tell the meaning of spin change. This brings the whole thing down to light speed again.
Now, hang on. In all fairness, I said I do not understand how this works, and this could all be a bunch of hooey, right? I didn't use those exact words,
Yes,
but it basically
as you've
said
said
that.
many times before, if you say anything with enough authority, people will believe it.
No,
So you were like, I may not know anything, but I totally heard this thing.
I qualified all of it.
And it was on the internet, which makes it true. So
Oh my
really,
gosh.
you're just screwing people over.
I
all
do
the-
not know how quantum entanglement works. That was kind of my rough understanding of how it would be able to help us in the future.
Right.
My rough understanding was clearly wrong because apparently you need kind of a beacon to go back and forth to tell you its state, which limits you back to light speed, which means the initial problem is still there. So, although maybe it will help. Now I'm going to dig myself even deeper now, but maybe even if it's light speed only, maybe it will still help with like a large pipe between the two that's still limited by light speed. So instead of only getting a few hundred kilobits per second, we could find a way to make it megabits or gigabits per second between Mars and Earth.
Sure.
Don't know. Again, you guys, please correct me. I'm just throwing random ideas out there.
Oh, they will.
I know. They did a lot in the comments. They corrected me a lot. And you should never take my word for it. You should always correct me. And that's awesome.
In After Dark, I have a story about that.
Oh, great.
So, next comment comes from Big Dave 141 from YouTube. If reaction engines can get Skylon off the ground, then SpaceX and Boeing won't be keeping CCT Cap award for very long.
I'm not sure that that's true at all. So, Skylon, for those of you who don't know, is a single-stage to-orbit space plane. It takes off like a plane, it goes to space, and it lands like a plane. It is fully reusable, at least it is supposed to be. It is nowhere near complete. The reaction engines that they use in there are going to be pretty remarkable if they can kind of make them work. And they are pretty decent way along on the development of those engines. They spent quite a bit of money on it, but they're still like, I think they quoted a decade or two away from being able to make this thing.
Well, also, in just simply referencing to the last part saying that SpaceX and Boeing won't be keeping the CCT Cap award for very long, Skylon isn't in the U.S., are they?
Further, that was what I was just going to get
Okay.
to. They're not a U.S. company. They can't compete. It won't impact CCT Cap at all. It's a completely different game.
All ships rise with the tide?
Yeah, I'm rooting for all of the CCT Cap competitors. I'm rooting for Skylon as well. They're all good options. There is no one that is better than the other. I think hopefully we can get them all to fly. But I don't think Skylon flying will kill CCT Cap in any way, shape, or form. Finally, this was, I need to describe it a little bit. This was a conversation that happened, and so you're going to see the conversation kind of unfold. So let's begin the conversation here.
This conversation is between Jeffrey Liggett and the Maritime Man, saying, did he just call it episode? He calls that every episode. I haven't watched every episode. Well, have you watched more than one? I usually skip the intro and the special thanks to stuff.
We're a little bit... There you go.
I love the whole, like, have you watched more than one?
I know.
Which I apologize. Actually, that also came from Ravner 96. So that it was
a couple of people going back and forth. Now, skip the intro and skipping the patrons of tomorrow. I understand why you would do that, but remember, these are the people who make this show go. They're the ones who make what we're doing possible. Without them, this show would suck a lot more than it already does.
Oh, yeah.
So, and I realize you're doing that, but it is a special thank you from us, and hopefully as a community, if you can't afford to be a patron, that's cool too. I mean, you contribute what you think the show is worth, and if you just can't, that's fine. But at least allow the patrons who are contributing their moment to kind of shine, as it were, and maybe even look through the list, see if you recognize anyone, watch the list as it changes and grows. I get it, but still, it's what makes us tick. All right, that's our show for this week. I'd like to thank everyone so much for watching. We'll be back with you next week. There will be no After Dark next week, but we will have a show. And then we're going to be heading into After Dark right now. For all of you Patron Plus subscribers, After Dark is available immediately. Everyone else, you'll see this After Dark episode in 4 weeks. Thank you for watching. See you next week.
I'm a space geek. This is not like AA for space geeks.